Welcome to Through the Bible with Pastor Michael, a podcast from First Baptist Church in Mustang, Oklahoma. Here's Pastor Michael.
All right. Well, today we continue on in our study of First Kings as we look at chapter 4, 5, and 6. And in our wisdom readings, we're in Psalm 78, 40 to 72. So, observing today, number 1, Solomon reigns as king, and there is peace in the land. And so it's a bit of a different feel from when David was king. There was so much fighting. We saw that through the days of Saul to the days of David, fighting everywhere. But now, when you get to 1 Kings 4, chapter 1, Solomon was king over all of Israel. And it tells us that these were days of peace at this point. Verse 20, they ate and drank and they were happy. Verse 24, and he had peace on all sides around him. So a little bit different setting for the nation here under Solomon as it had previously with David and with Saul. So we pick up in chapter 4 with peace all around them. And then we see, secondly, that people from all over traveled to meet Solomon as his fame spread. Verse 30, Solomon's wisdom surpassed the wisdom of all the people of the east and all the people of Egypt. Then at the end of chapter 4, verse 34, and the people of all the nations came to hear the wisdom of Solomon, and from all the kings of the earth who had heard of his wisdom. So Solomon is becoming well known throughout all the area because of his unique wisdom he prayed for. We looked at yesterday. God granted that prayer. God was pleased by Solomon's prayer. As we read yesterday, he did not ask for a long life. He did not ask for riches. He didn't ask for his enemies to be killed. He instead asked for wisdom. And it said the Lord was pleased with that, and the Lord answered that prayer. And today, in chapter 4, we see the results of that the people are living in peace, and that his fame for his wisdom is spreading, and people are coming from all over to hear this wisdom that Solomon has. The third observation is Solomon calls on David's friend, that was his father, so he calls on David's friend Hiram, the king of Tyre, to help him build the temple by cutting cedar and cypress trees. So a significant development happening in our reading today is that David has passed away. David wanted to build the temple. He couldn't do it because he was a man of blood, a man of war. His son Solomon takes over, becomes the king, and so Solomon's the one who is going to build the temple, to build the house for the Lord. And in chapter 5, he says in verse 5, I intend to build a house for the name of the Lord my God. And as the Lord said to David my father, your son, whom I will set on your throne, that's Solomon, in your place, shall build the house for my name. Verse 10, Hiram supplied Solomon with all the timber of cedar and cypress that he desired, because Solomon's going to people who are well known for their ability to be able to do that. A fourth thing we see is that Solomon then organized his people to work on the construction. So Solomon goes, and the text today gives us the very specific breakdowns of the people that he drafted into the work and the construction of this temple. And so he tells them what to do and gets them organized. Verse 15, King Solomon drafted forced labor out of all of Israel, and the draft numbered 30,000 men. He sent them to Lebanon, 10,000 a month in shifts. They would be a month in Lebanon and then 2 months at home. Verse 15, Solomon had 70,000 burden bearers, 80,000 stone cutters. Verse 16, 3,300 chief officers who were over the work. And so a lot of people are involved in the organization, the work, and the construction of the temple. And then a fifth thing we see is that nearly 500 years after Israel was freed from Egypt, construction began on the temple, and it took 7.5 years to complete. Chapter 6, verse 1 tells us specifically in the 480th year after the people of Israel came out of the land of Egypt. It was the 4th year of Solomon's reign. That's when the construction began. And then it tells us at the end of chapter 6, he was 7 years in building it. So very, very significant development in our reading today as the temple has been built. Some applications for us. Number one, any significant task requires people to help each other. This is something that Solomon wanted to do, something he was supposed to do, and yet it's not something he could do by himself. Solomon is having to get other people to help, which is a good reminder for us that any significant task requires other people to help us. And so I think that's something that's very important for us to remember. Secondly, wisdom is a beautiful blessing to observe. We see that in the reading today as people are traveling from all over because they want to be around Solomon, who's known for his wisdom. You know, in our world today, people value physical beauty, they value wealth, they value maybe physical strength, they value power and influence. But truthfully, if you're ever around someone who is just truly a wise person, they just know their Bible, they love the Lord, they live in wisdom and walk in wisdom, that is a beautiful thing to observe. And that's a great application for us today, that regardless of what the world desires and clamors over, it is a beautiful thing when God's people live in wisdom. And so just as Solomon asked for wisdom, let us ask for wisdom. And let us walk in it and live according to it. And we'll be a blessing to those around us as we do. Third, allowing people to use their gifts blesses everyone. This is something that in churches, that those of us who serve as pastors have to remember, that according to Ephesians 4, it's the work of the leaders in the church, the pastors, the shepherds, to equip the saints for the work of ministry. It's not just the pastors who are supposed to do it. It's the work of ministry is all the saints. And so it's the pastor's job to equip those saints to do the work. And when people use their gifts, everyone's blessed. Those who use their gifts are blessed. Those who are the recipient of people using their gifts are blessed. And it's a wonderful thing. You know, at my house, I love lawn work. As long as it's raining, I should say, I love lawn work. When it stops raining and we can't keep the property green, I get frustrated. But as long as it's raining a little bit and we can keep the lawn growing and green, I love it. We've got 3 acres. I mow all 3 of those about every 3 days, maybe every 4 days. I'm mowing it, I'm edging it, I'm weeding it. I enjoy it. I like that work. I like having the grass always look nice. I like when we have people over, the property to look good. I like when my wife is at home, for her to be able to look outside or go outside and everything look well maintained and beautiful. My wife does not enjoy lawn work. She doesn't like it. It's not a blessing to her. She likes the results of it. She doesn't like doing it. I like doing it. And so at our house, it works well when I'm doing that because I like it. And hopefully I can do it well and I can be a blessing. Conversely, I'm not a cook. I don't know how to cook. That's not my thing. My wife thankfully can. And so she faithfully helps provide meals for us. And I'm grateful for that. And when the day comes to an end, because we have each kind of done what we like to do and what we've got some ability to do, our property looks nice and we're well fed. And it works that way. Well, if I were to say to my wife, I'm no longer going to do what I enjoy doing, and if she were going to say to me, she's no longer going to do what she's able to do, then we'd have a real problem. And yet, when we do what we're gifted to do, able to do, enjoy doing, then it's a blessing to other people. Now, I'm not suggesting taking care of lawn and cooking are spiritual gifts. I'm just saying that in any relationship, when people do what they're gifted to do and what they can do, it blesses everybody else. And we see that in the spiritual realm. That when people use the gifts God's given to them, it's not just that they're blessed, but they're able to be a blessing to other people around them. And that's an important aspect of church life. It's one of the reasons why just watching videos from home or just listening to sermons on your phone is not a substitute for being a part of the local church, because part of being a part of the local church is using our gifts to bless others, to build up the body of Christ. Number 4, doing God's work often takes time and continued diligence. It's easy to start something, it's hard to finish it. And so just as we see in the reading today, it takes 7.5 years to finish this task. It takes thousands of people, tons of man hours, lots of expense and cost and diligence to get it finished. Well, the same thing's true for us. To do what God's called us to do, we've got to be faithful over and over and over and over again. And then fifthly, healthy churches equip everyone to serve. Healthy churches don't just rely on a few gifted people. Healthy churches are striving to equip everyone to serve. And so for those who are leaders of the church, the question is, are we investing in people? Are we teaching and training and discipling and equipping them to use their gifts for their good and God's glory and the blessing of the church? And for every church member, the question is, are we as church members doing our part to help serve each other and strengthen the church? Because a healthy church equips everyone to serve. Now, that's a two-way street. You've got to have pastors who are training members and members who are willing to do the work of ministry. Both of those have to happen in order for the church to be healthy and biblical. And then finally, we'll end with a brief summary of the second half of Psalm 78. It is a dangerous thing to forget the Lord and to provoke him by disobedience. That's the mistake that many people made that the psalmist refers to. We don't want to do that. We want to walk in obedience, not disobedience. And we don't want to provoke the Lord by forgetting who he is or failing to acknowledge his authority in our life. All right? A little bit different reading today in 1 Kings 4-6. A lot of details about the temple and the specificities of it, but it's a very, very important thing. In fact, our reading today is a climactic thing in the Old Testament as the temple is finally built. A very significant thing that we read about today. So don't get lost too much on the details and think, oh, there's nothing here for us. This is a big event that we need to know about, need to understand, and I think some helpful takeaways for us as we've already looked at. So be blessed and encouraged today as you read and as you study.